Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series where I review every single Capcom CP, CP System Dash, CPS2, and CPS3 game. And today we're taking a look at Dynasty Wars, a kind of pseudo hack and slash beat 'em up game. It's one of the earlier games on the Capcom CP system, and it is a really fun one, even if it's not my 100% favorite on the system itself. Before I get too far involved, if you do me a huge favor, go down below and hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But you can definitely tell this is different than just a pure beat 'em up. We are a warrior on a mounted horse, and we're able to attack both forward and backwards. It kind of feels like an on-rails beat 'em up, even though you have free range of motion as well. And I like the fact that Capcom did decide to put the characters on a mounted position versus just walking back and forth, because it gives the game an entirely different feel and scale. I wouldn't say that this is my favorite game on the system. It's probably a B tier game to me, which isn't to say it's bad whatsoever. It's just to say that so many of the beat 'em ups on Capcom's arcade platforms are so incredible and some of the best games ever made that this game is still really good but can still be a B tier effort completely. You'll notice that this is definitely graphically not as good as some of the other games that we've already shown and that you're going to be seeing, but that's because this game came out in 1989, and compared to the other home consoles on the market at that point in time, it still looks absolutely awesome. And you'll see that the sprites are definitely a lot smaller than the other CP games we've covered so far, but you get so many more characters on screen at once that it just lends a more epic feel to the battle. So I definitely think it was a smart design choice for them to keep the sprites smaller, but to start throwing around, 10 to 15 of them at once. Now, as far as the story is concerned, this is based on a Japanese manga. I'm not even going to be able to pronounce the name, so I'm not going to try, but this is telling the story of some epic battle in that manga itself. I've never read it, and in the offhand chance you're watching this and you have, if you want to explain more to me in the comments, I'd love to hear it, but it is a really fun kind of jumping off point. And you'll see here in the boss battle as well, the bosses are quite small, they're the same size as us, but we have so many other ancillary characters on screen at the same time. I just love how many different things you have to attack. You'll see there that we do have that vitality meter or health gauge at the top left, and this game actually has a function that I really appreciate. But before I tell you about that, I have to talk about the fact that we just cut that general in half. I love how gory this little intercut scene is there. But what you can do is you can pop another quarter into the machine or another credit, and you can up your life without dying. And considering this has the same annoying to me low health warning beep that all the Capcom CP games have, I appreciate that I can eliminate the need to use that before I've actually had to deal with dying. I'm going to see at the bottom left hand corner as well, we have different levels and you're able to get different weapons in the game, and you can power yourself up, and you'll see the tactic is ambush. That's basically our special move, but there's a lot of different moving mechanics to the game, and I love how it plays around with the different genres. I mean, I've never read the manga obviously, but this feels like a really ancient game to me as far as the setting is concerned. But you'll see that there's these steel links between the two boats, so it's kind of, this naval flotilla we have here feels both ancient and modern at the same time, and that's just kind of a fun thing. But as the water undulates graphically, it still does look really good for 1989. I appreciate how much detail that they did put into the game. I think it's slightly odd that, the bottom quarter of the screen is taken up just with a heads-up display and a lot of black area. I'm not sure if that was a design choice or if they just couldn't have this game run at full speed with all the sprites on screen at once without having that black area there, so I'm really not sure. But you'll see here, we can power up those swings, and we have these different barricades in front of us. You don't want to just go hammering at those, because that's how you take damage, but if we power up and release, we can defeat the enemy and the barricade at the same time, so there is a lot of functionality with that. You'll hear that that beep was definitely gotten rid of with just popping another quarter in, and I do like that, and I kind of wish all the Capcom games were like that. You could just put a quarter in right before you died and just re-up your health. It would be terrible from a gameplay perspective in an arcade, because you'd be spending money on health you didn't need, but as far as playing it at home is concerned and not popping quarters in, I do really appreciate that. Now, this game isn't my favorite Capcom beat 'em up of all time. Like I said earlier, it's a B tier effort, but that's not to say the game is bad. It's still really, really fun to play and has a lot of unique mechanics and gameplay elements going on with it. It's just that Capcom's best beat 'em ups are so incredibly good that if they're not on the level, they just fall to that B tier status. But compared to some other developers that made 2D beat 'em ups, a B tier Capcom game is still going to be better than like 90% of what was made on the market. And that's just to say how good Capcom was at making arcade games. The 90s were just the like golden era for them. And this is a game that I definitely did see in arcades back in the 90s, and I played it a few quarters, but I just decided to go play something else. And I swear these guys just look like they're completely ripped from Golden Axe. I can't remember the exact color scheme for the Golden Axe Warriors, but I feel like this is just a copy and paste job. But like I said, I really can't remember too much. But you'll see here as we've beaten them up again, we're going to get a little bit more story intercut. But the soundtrack to this game is fun. It's got that kind of, ancient Asian vibe that you hear in music. So what I'll let you do is listen to about a minute of it, and I'll be back and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with Dynasty Wars. But enjoy. So yeah, it's just a really good soundtrack. I would say that some of the sound effects can ever so slightly sound tinny, but that was just something that happened on the hardware with the sound chips they were using. Now that we get into another boss battle again, I will say that as you get a little further into the game, that's when the repetitive nature of this, horse-mounted battle starts really coming up, because now we have 3 different bosses on horse, but you're really just basically still going left and right and trying to attack them while avoid being hit. And I am going to, kind of spam my special attacks here because I have saved them up to make the battle go quicker. But as the game goes on, some of the novelty of a mounted battle wears off and you're kind of just feeling like you're retreading the same territory. And that's why I kind of just put it underneath those A-level Capcom beat-em-ups into that B tier. But I still do love these slash animations here, these little title cards where you just see your enemy split in half. And I will say that for the story that is here, it's fine. It's really not important. You just get a little bit of it now and then. I think it was really impressive that they were to have those, digitized speech samples in 1989. But honestly, they're definitely of their time and place, and the voice acting is fine, but not great. And you'll see here as we moved further on into the game, we're still basically just doing the same thing again. Enemies are coming from the left, enemies are coming from the right. You're going to get a couple more archers just to make the game feel a little bit harder. But once you've gotten to this point in the game, you've kind of seen everything that it has to offer. And if you want to beat it, you should. I definitely did myself, but you don't really need to see a ton more to feel like you're missing out on something. I was able to level up there with a stronger weapon, and that's kind of maybe just the last mechanic. But you'll see here they roll snowballs down the snow at you, which was basically the same thing as the fire being burned downhill to try to attack you in the previous stage. They've changed the graphics. It's a snowball, not fire, but it's still doing functionally the same thing. But if you're looking for a new beat 'em up to play and you have never played this before, you've never heard of it before, I definitely recommend you check it out. I wouldn't play this before something like Final Fight or Captain Commando or Battle Circuit, but it's definitely something that if you really love the genre and you're looking for a new game to play and you never have played it, that I would recommend. So that's kind of how I feel about the game. It's still really good, it's just not as good as the best that Capcom's ever put out there into the market. But it's a fun game, and I can't believe this is 1989 graphics, because this to me, looks like early 91, 92, and that's just how impressive the Capcom CP hardware was when it first came out. It was really doing great things with 2D. But short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I love chatting with you guys. I'll be back next week with another video in this review series, and I'll have videos on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. But like I said, any questions, leave them below. If you've played this game, tell me if you find it kind of repetitive like I do, or if I'm just maybe missing something. But I will be back next week. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to beat these last few guys up on horse, and then I'm going to run through the gate. Bye-bye.